when it comes to the making of a Metcon, sometimes it's just random, like throwing spaghetti at a wall. But with this workout that I did yesterday, I had a lot of time, 60 minutes. I had a lot of time to kind of break down the making of it, the thought process going into it, and why I think if you're a runner, you might want to pay attention to this. So let's break it down. First of all, it was 60-second rounds, but also like an EMOM, so every minute on the minute. For a lot of folks, that helps kind of take out the counting reps, although you still have to count. It takes out the thought process and thinking too much with exercises and exercise selection and like, how many more? Like you can just kind of settle in. So with that, you can vary the number of rounds. Okay, I did 10, but an EMOM specifically is every minute on the minute. Now, this one was every minute on the minute for time, then for reps, technically for time, although it turned into reps, and then certainly for time. So what we have here is kind of a complementary look at, these I think, strengthening what I noticed a couple of weeks ago, which was the relationship between the knee and the ankle. Let me explain. For a lot of runners, the getting stronger as a runner happens in the weight room, happens here, happens in a gym. But usually that happens simultaneously with just getting like in better cardiovascular condition. A couple weeks ago, I had a couple workouts where I felt like my wind was fine. Like I was running and I was like, wow, my feet are tired. My shins, my calves, like, whoa, I struggled a little bit. And I think what happened was that my cardiovascular condition, which is different than my running condition, because I do mainly bike, row, and ski, highlighted a blind spot in my programming. So what I tried to do with this specific workout was kind of address that blind spot. And what I'd encourage you to do too is to look at the blind spots in your programming. So I gave myself some different cardio in different planes. So for instance, I would argue that the slide board is one of the most underutilized modalities in fitness. Why? It's a version of frontal plane cardio. And specifically, I could feel my feet getting tired at the end of each set. Like literally the feet were like, whoa, my ankles, I felt it. The slide board itself is a skill. So getting used to using the slide board takes time. So you're gonna have to work your way up to that as well. So there's a bit of a learning curve. But as far as the slide board itself is concerned, just for a reference standpoint, I aimed to do roughly 20 reps back and forth each time. The other thing about slide boards is they are very sturdy. This slide board I've had since my first studio, which was 2010. So we're going on 11 years together. Thank you, UltraSlide, for the making of a great piece of equipment. The trap bar deadlift. This was a sub-max effort, meaning around a 70% effort. I ended up doing sets of 10, and it was 10 rounds, so it was 100 reps. But the reason this is intriguing too is this is on a slightly fatigued state. The slide board, which I did immediately before, left me 5 to 10 seconds to set up for the deadlift. When you go into the deadlift, you're already fatigued. You're like, oh man, all right, well, I have to go again. Now demonstrating strength under fatigue. Could that be for runners? Like coming up to a big hill and then you find yourself having to go up the hill? Maybe. So that's where I quantified that the relationship of being able to demonstrate strength under fatigue, but I still placed it second in the circuit so that it was still not at the end of the circuit where I might be a little bit more fatigued, probably a lot more fatigued within the circuit. Next, something that I think is missing, at least in my programming, is definitely core shortening, okay? Most people focus on core shortening, crunches, sit-ups, but it's not usually in my program. So what I did there was worked on the combination of making sure that the hip flexors are not doing all the work with the medicine ball crunch. In addition, that the contraction out happened with the breath, and in addition, that I wasn't bouncing the ball. I got a little lazy in the middle, but make sure I'm not bouncing the ball and using momentum to come up, but rather using my abs to do the shortening. So that was the quantification for the medicine ball crunch. Now, this is probably the most interesting placement of step-ups in terms of the exercise itself. So at this point, my legs are a little bit recovered because I had a 60 seconds breather between the deadlift. In addition, I had almost a 2 minutes breather from the slide pull. But what I did here is I introduced a little bit more of a frontal plane motion, the alternating step-ups to the side, right? In the frontal plane here is that we're actually moving in the frontal plane side to side. We're also showing stability in the sagittal plane. What's that like? Well, for runners, that's pretty necessary in terms of, actually it's a requirement. And we need runners to be able to not have their ankles and knees wobble all over the place. In addition, talk about these smaller muscles from the knee down through the ankle. I felt the fatigue. I definitely felt like my legs were heavy, my feet were heavy. So again, without the pounding of, let's say I ran for 6 miles, right? We know that running technically is a repetitive, all of your weight, like in that weight bearing, and plus in the heat, and if you're not in the right running shape, which again, a couple weeks ago I wasn't, that can be a lot. It really adds up. So the step-ups themselves, I found to be very, they highlighted again another weakness. I would say the two that did was the alternating step-ups and the slide board. They highlighted a weakness. I literally felt my feet were fatigued within the actual 60 seconds. This one I did end up doing 20 on each side. So alternating step-ups to the side, not too high. So the idea is not that you're doing maximum power, but more that you're expressing a little bit of power over 20 reps on each side. Specifically with the run, I use the assault treadmill just back there. The reason I like that is because there's no motor, so you have to be the motor. You have to work your way up and use the hamstrings and glutes a little bit more specifically. And what I would quantify that is most interesting to me was my running, which was not the focus, right? I was arguing that the trap bar deadlift demanded the most focus. But my running specifically, what I tried to do is try to be as consistent as possible, not super bursts, and be like in the red, but to be as consistent as possible, knowing I had 60 seconds rest after, but in addition to focus on form in a fatigue state. Again, 3 minutes before that, technically 4, you're working on stuff that's going to fatigue you in a normal running situation. Now you go run for a minute and you're already fatigued. Well, uniquely, I could save my mental focus for the run and quantify that over those 60 seconds, I could focus on being light with my shoulders and arms and elbows. In addition to proper form, I have the mirror right in front of me, so it's again a little bit more feedback. But the concept of awareness while running under fatigue and what that looked like. So wasn't super fast. The entire day wasn't super fast. Nothing really got me into the red until my last 60 second, basically from 59 to 60 minutes. Nothing got me into the red in terms of heart rate. So it was a medium, I quantify this as a medium intensity workout, but just again over a longer period of time. So if you are a runner, if you're working out and you want to challenge yourself within a lower body standpoint, again this is more lower body than most circuits that I would quantify. This is definitely a lower body circuit, put it that way. If you want to challenge yourself within the confines of a circuit that challenges you, but in the same token, I found it very meditative. Like halfway through, I was just like, how many rounds am I doing? I completely lost track. I would quantify that the meditative standpoint of an EMOM / circuits like this, where you're doing a consistent number of reps. Again, it was 20 on the slide board, 10 on the deadlift, 20 on the crunch, and then 20 on the step ups. Again, about knee height on the step up, not too high. And then 60 seconds on the run. And the benefit again of a place like this is you have all of your equipment. You don't need to move far. If you see the photo that I posted yesterday on the Instagram page, everything was like right here. It was very close. So I like workouts where you don't have to take out the large footprint. I like workouts where I don't have to think too much. I just have to keep a towel, and I had 2 different waters. I had the Ladder Sport hydration mix because it's about a 60-minute workout. I knew towards the end I'd be fading a little bit. And yeah, that's the concept of circuit workouts. Now, you can't do these all the time. I definitely needed a nap afterwards. I definitely had a higher carb day yesterday. And I definitely found that I was hungry yesterday. But this is a good circuit / good workout to challenge you over the course of, let's say, 6 weeks, to slowly do more and more in each situation and to find out weak spots within your own programming. So for me, the weak spot was I'm not doing enough frontal plane movement, right? So I added the frontal plane movement. In addition, can I demonstrate strength over time as a runner from the feet all the way up? So I think the rowing definitely gets the quads, and you feel like you can last a little bit longer. The skiing, you definitely get the arms. The biking, definitely more quads. But running, really like my feet. I felt like my feet through my knees were the weak point. So I think this is a great supplemental workout for runners who don't want to run 6 miles, but want to get a 60-minute workout in. You can shorten it, obviously. And you know, you could technically do this if you wanted to. You could go skater strides. You could go single leg deadlift. You can go hand to opposite toe. You can go like a bench step up if you're in a picnic. If you're like in a park and you have a picnic table, something like that. And then you could go 30 seconds out, 30 seconds back. So you could reproduce this somewhere else too. You don't necessarily need to be in a gym. All that to say, I really like this workout, and I wanted to break down the making of it, because I think for a lot of folks, burpees and like box jumps and like things that can get sloppy were parts of programs that I've seen, and I like to highlight workouts that I found I was able to reproduce quality reps over time. So it means I was rested properly, and then the pairings, again, lower body frontal plane, lower body sagittal, core, lower body sagittal, lower body cardio in the sagittal. Sorry, that's lower body frontal. But the concepts behind thoughtful Metcon and thoughtful program design, I think, are underappreciated. So just wanted to pass on kind of the how the wheels turned in the making of that. Kind of shout out to my man Kyle Dobbs from Compound Performance, because he's kind of pushing this stuff too. And I think he's just able, because he's a beast, able to keep his heart rate a little bit lower, because he's been training with this type of general preparation circuit maybe a little bit longer than I have. Yeah, that's really it. I hope you find this video helpful. Feel free to hit the subscribe button on YouTube, and keep making more, because I love this stuff. I can talk about this all day. Have a good day.